welcome to Make Sense of Math. I am Michelle and I am back. I recently got a new phone. I'm hoping the quality is of the picture and sound is better than it was before. So I am back and I'm here making more videos about math education, specifically in the middle grades, but I also touch on upper elementary and high school math. I am passionate about the way that math is taught. So here we are. Today I want to talk about the main thing. A quote that you may have heard before by Stephen R. Covey says, I think it says this. He says, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Now, he was not talking about math education when he was talking about this, but it's so applicable about what I want to talk about today. Okay, I'm going to start with this concept with the idea of integers. Hopefully, and I say hopefully because I've taught math in middle school and I know that not everybody's at this point yet, but hopefully when students are in middle school, they are pretty fluent with adding, subtracting, and multiplying, dividing numbers, whole numbers. They even big whole numbers, even 3-4 digit, like they know how to do it. So when we're teaching integer operations, I want to start with adding and subtracting integers. The main thing when you're teaching integer adding and subtracting is not can you add and subtract large numbers. The idea, the concept, the main thing is, do you understand what it means to subtract a positive number? Or do you know what it means when you subtract a negative number? Do you know what it means when you add a negative number? Do you understand what happens? Does the number get bigger? Does the number get smaller? Are you adding? Are you subtracting? That is the main thing. So when you're teaching integers, for example, you need to keep that concept the main thing, and you do that by using simple numbers. Do not do like 456 minus a negative 238, because students will look at that problem and they will immediately look at the large numbers and go, whoa, I don't know how to do this. And that's, because they get overwhelmed by the big numbers. You need to keep the numbers simple, because the main thing is, do you know if you're supposed to add the numbers? Do you know if you're supposed to subtract the numbers? And then what happens? Like what sign is the end result, right? That's the main thing. And so when you're teaching integer operations or adding and subtracting integers, you always need to keep the numbers simple. When I say simple, I mean probably stay out of the 3-digit ones, okay? I would keep it between the 20s for so long. You can expand beyond that like towards the end of the year if you want. But because I am trying to understand if they understand that adding a negative is like subtracting, or minusing a negative is like addition. Like that's what I'm testing, and that is the main thing. This also happens with scientific notation. I was helping my niece a few months ago with scientific notation, and she was adding and subtracting scientific notation, which is, well, in Utah it's in the 8th grade math, and she had like this number. I don't remember exactly, but it was a humongous number. It was like 3 2/10 times 10 to the 587. And I look at that and I was like, wow, that's a really big number. I don't know that we use that big of numbers, so perhaps in astronomy, but even then that's a humongous numbers. And I guess it depends on your units, but wow, like even for me, as a mathematician, like that's hard for my brain to comprehend. And so I think what was happening is she was looking at the problem, getting immediately overwhelmed by the numbers and not necessarily what was she supposed to do, okay? So the main thing was not the main thing. The main thing should have been, do you know how to add and subtract scientific notation, and not, holy cow, these numbers are huge. What does this number even mean? And when will I use this number in real life? So you've got to keep it simple. Keep it down to the basics. Keep it down. And I'm talking about like the entire year, keeping it basic. Because once students have a solid foundation of the conceptual part of it, going beyond that it's just natural. And so it doesn't need to be tested. It doesn't even need to be taught. The base of the concept needs to be taught and repeated over and over. Another one where I see this is fractions, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing fractions. I know that we use obscure fractions, probably some people in the real world, but like we normal, well, I shouldn't say normal people, but in everyday life, we use eighths, we use fifths, we use fourths, halves. Um, we probably don't use sevenths that much. Not that you can't use sevenths, but I just don't use like 27th. Don't use 53rds. Don't use 21st. Okay. Um, that is hard to comprehend. It's hard to understand. It's hard to make sense of. When you're doing fraction operations, keep it basic, keep it simple, because that is the foundation. And you are building the foundation. And I'm talking about the entire year keeping the numbers basic. They will get, because that is what builds their foundation, and they will get their foundation so solid that when they go to bigger numbers in maybe, in higher mathematics, uh, it will make sense to them. It would almost be natural because our foundation is so solid. So I see this in integers. I see it in scientific notation, see it in fractions. I see it working with equations a lot. The Utah, I can speak for so I am in Utah and they use the Common Core curriculum. I'm assuming it's similar in other states. So in 6th grade, when they teach equations, it's all based on whole numbers. Okay. They don't, and integers aren't really taught a lot in 6th grade. They are introduced to them, but working with them, they're not, like adding and subtracting isn't till 7th. So it makes sense that they wouldn't use integers. Decimals, however, are not new territory in 6th grade. Students already are using decimals in 6th grade, but they don't have them use it in the equation because that's not the main thing. The main thing in the equation is, do you know how to make the equation balanced? Do you know how to solve for the variable? Okay, that's the main thing. And so naturally in the curriculum, it says whole numbers. So make sure you use only whole numbers. Don't go divvying off into rational numbers. 7th grade, they jump into integers, but still it's integers. They're integers, not rational numbers. And it's a great way to also apply the integer operation, but keep it simple. Like, keep it basic. Keep it the main thing. Make sure you're testing what you're supposed to be testing. Students don't get lost in the numbers. And then in 8th grade, they have rational numbers. So they are diving into decimals and fractions within the equations. But their base should be so solid from a solid 6th grade and 7th grade that doing rational numbers should almost be natural. Like, they understand it. So those are the four areas that off the top of my head, it's like really an issue about keeping the main thing. Yeah. Anyways, so let me know any questions you have and any comments you have on that. Thank you.